Before I do start this video, make sure to use my TCG player affiliate down below if you're looking for any of these singles that I talk about today. Also, this channel is sponsored by Arcane Fortress. If you're looking for the best deck boxes around, make sure to use my link down below in the description to check them out. One other way you can support the channel is by becoming a patron. There are some great benefits of being a patron to the channel, such as giveaways, deck advice, and more when you do join. For today's patron shout out, thank you Kaleo Robinson for being a patron. I can't thank you enough for your support. Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Devin coming back at you with another video today in Pub Stomp MTG, and in this video I wanted to focus on Sophia Dogged Detective. And recently I made a top 10 commander list, and this was my #1 commander of the entire set, mainly for flavor. Plus it also can be a very powerful commander. The more dogs you have on the battlefield, the more you can sacrifice artifacts and buff them up so that you can swing for victory. And before going any further, let's read what she does. So for 1 green, white, and a blue, she's a human detective. When she enters the battlefield, you create Tiny, a legendary 2/2 green dog detective creature token with trample. You can pay 1, sacrifice an artifact token, put a 1/1 counter on each dog you control, and whenever a dog you control deals combat damage to a player, create a food token, then investigate. Also, she does have a 3/4 body herself. So what's very neat about this commander out of the get-go is the fact that it does provide 2 bodies when she enters the battlefield. So she herself is a 3/4. Also, she does make a 2/2 on the battlefield that could exponentially grow. So for 4 mana, putting 5 power and 6 toughness on the battlefield isn't too shabby, or should I say shaggy. I've talked enough about how this is a Scooby-Doo reference on a card, whether you looked at the top 10 commanders of the series or if you looked at my pre-con upgrade for the Deep Clue C. So the flavor of this card is absolutely incredible. Plus this can be very powerful if you do have 3 dogs on the battlefield. You go ahead and swing at each player and connect. You could potentially make 3 food tokens on the battlefield, then investigate 3 times, making 3 clue tokens. So there is a lot of neat interactions you could take advantage of with Sophia Dogged Detective, and let's dive into it. So first of all, let's support the game plan of our deck. Of course, we want to focus on clues so that we can sacrifice them to make our dogs bigger. So let's take advantage of Tireless Tracker, Tamiyo's Journal, and Disorder in the Court. These are all reprinted in the pre-con, and I might touch on some of the cards that were in the pre-con. So these are absolutely excellent. Tireless Tracker, when we put a land on the battlefield, we could essentially investigate each time, and when we do sacrifice a clue, we could also buff them up. Tamiyo's Journal basically acts as a tutor each time we sacrifice 3 clues. Also, at the beginning of your upkeep, we will investigate. So with the amount of clue generation you are making, it's going to be so easy to tutor basically every turn. I do also find Disorder in the Court extremely powerful. It's very versatile. You could use it on your opponents. You will investigate. You could also use it on your own creatures too. Say for example, somebody's attacking in with you with a Craterhoof Behemoth army. You could exile those creatures in the combat. Then later on, they will be returned at the beginning of the next end step, but that's not a big deal because of course you avoided a big giant swing. Also, you can use this offensively if you do have a lot of ETB triggers. Of course, not only are we exiling creatures, we're also investigating X times. So if we pay 5 into this, we'll also investigate 5. So this is extremely good value in the deck. Of course, we are making a lot of clue and food tokens, so might as well take advantage of token doublers like Parallel Lives, Anointed Procession, and also Doubling Season. I do feel like Doubling Season can be very impactful because not only are we doubling the tokens on the battlefield, but we could also increase the amount of counters that we're putting on all our dogs when we do sacrifice those tokens. So again, we go into that scenario of swinging in against 3 different players with 3 different dogs on the battlefield. When we do connect with our 3 opponents, instead of making 3 clue and 3 food tokens, we'll make 9 food and 9 clue tokens. So this could really amplify the amount of Scooby snacks we could take advantage of to make our dogs even bigger. I did also want to highlight an Anthem effect with Private Eye. I feel like this is great because of course our commander is a detective and also Tiny is a detective as well, so it's an Anthem effect for that. And also whenever you draw your second card each turn, target detective can't be blocked this turn. Of course, we want to investigate and also make some Scooby snacks with our commander's ability. And sometimes Tiny can't connect with opponents because they might have big creatures on the battlefield. We could take advantage of our clues to draw a second card and make sure that Tiny can't be blocked this turn. So this is a great include, pretty linear to Tiny and our commander though. There is another card I did want to showcase, and that's Academy Manufactor. This is absolutely insane in the deck, and I mean this really synergizes with our commander because of course when we do connect with a dog, we will make a food token then investigate. So with Academy Manufactor on the battlefield, instead of making that food token at first instance, you'll also make a treasure and also a clue token. And then when you do investigate, you will also make a food and also a treasure token. So I feel like this is one of the most auto-include cards that you could possibly add into the deck for sure. So with all those tokens entering the battlefield, you might as well take advantage of Benny Brax. This is excellent in the deck too, because of course at the beginning of each end step, if you created a token this turn, you draw a card. This was also reprinted in the Pre-Con, Deep Clue C, and also Academy Manufacturer, so honestly this kind of almost feels like an upgrade to that deck, but in a way I wanted to make some changes so that I could fit the style of Sophia a little bit more. So basically whenever we make a clue token on the battlefield, we're essentially just drawing a card at the end step, and we could also make clue tokens on our opponent's turn too and draw some cards as well. Also a little side note, Benny Brax does have Convoke, so our commander does enter the battlefield with 2 bodies, herself and also Tiny, so we can convoke those to Benny to make him cheaper. Another great card draw option I did want to highlight is Cutsel Mammolet Exemplar. Lately I've been adding this to a lot of decks that have Selesnya color combinations because honestly this is a great card overall. Not only does this act as a Grand Abolisher effect, but you could potentially get some card draw off of this. Because we are buffing up our dogs into combat, we could potentially get some card draw, maybe 3 per turn if we do swing in with 3 dogs. But I do feel like one of the most synergistic cards that you could be putting in this deck is Jaheira, Friend of the Forest. Because our commander has that pay 1 ability to put 1/1 counters on each dog we control, with all those tokens we do have on the battlefield that are either clue tokens or food tokens, we could just tap those for green mana to sacrifice that exact token we tapped to then pay into that ability. So honestly that stonks if I've ever seen it. But now let's jump into some changeling options because I feel like there's not a lot of dog support, at least in Bant color combinations. So the first utility cards I do want to mention is Masked Vandal and also Realm Walker. I do find these extremely impactful, having the ability to exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do, you exile target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. Also Realm Walker has that ability if you may look at the top card of your library at any time and you may cast creature spells of the chosen type from the top of your library. So when you enter the battlefield with Realm Walker, you choose obviously dogs and then you can just cast them from the top of your library. So because they have that changeling creature type, they are dogs technically, so these are obviously great includes. Another card I did want to highlight is Unsettled Mariner. This basically gives us and also permanents we control Ward 1 essentially, and so all for 2 mana is very good. It's also a dog on the battlefield because of that changeling ability. We do also have Mirror Entity that could basically make all our creatures on the battlefield into dogs, including our commander Sophia, which is kind of funny in a way, but also we could buff up the dogs that we do have on the battlefield too by paying into that X ability. We could also take advantage of Orvar the All Form. So it does have changeling whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell. If it targets 1 or more permanents you control, create a token that's a copy of one of those permanents. Also when a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard this card, create a token that's a copy of target permanent. So we do have a decent amount of spells that basically target our permanents, so we could take advantage of that first ability. That second ability is really just there for people discarding our cards. Of course you also got to throw in Maskwood Nexus. What a great all-star in the deck. It'll make dog tokens on the battlefield for us, making 2/2 blue shapeshifter creature tokens. Also it'll make all our creatures dogs and also detectives too, because we do have a little bit of a detective theme as well. So of course I did have to throw this one out there. But let's be honest, we're really here for dogs. We're not here for shapeshifters or changelings. We're here for the dogs. So I did want to mention a great utility land with Animal Sanctuary. This is mainly great because you could pay 2 and tap it to put a 1/1 counter on target bird, cat, dog, goat, ox, or snake. Really, obviously, you're focusing on the dogs. So if you do need to put a little bit extra counters on a dog that you control, you could easily use this ability just by paying 2 mana. More flavor reasons, I do think Floodhound is really good. For 1 mana, you have a 1/2. Also has the ability to pay 3 and tapping it Investigate. So it's not the craziest dog you could see on this list, but it's a very good utility. It has that ability to make clue tokens on the battlefield, all for 1 mana. Very good option in the deck too. Some other good boys you could bring in the deck is K9 Mark 1 and also Pack Leader. So K9 actually has a lot of great utility in this deck. It has that ability as long as it's untapped. Other legendary creatures you control have Ward 1. So our commander and also Tiny will have Ward 1. Also on top of that, you could pay 1 and a blue and tap it. Target legendary creature can't be blocked this turn. Since Tiny is a legendary creature, we can make sure it can't be blocked so that we can swing in, investigate, and also make some food tokens. Also, Pack Leader acts as a great lord, giving all other dogs you control +1/+1, but most importantly, when it does attack itself, you prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn to dogs you control. Because we want to be swinging with dogs in our aggressive strategy so that we can make clue and food tokens, if people will block into some of of our dogs, that's okay. We'll prevent all combat damage and protect our little pups. So with K9, we have a robot dog from the Doctor Who universe. We also do have an alien dog with Carvinatia, Loyal Lupari. I don't know how to pronounce that. Regardless, this is very good in the deck, mainly because it does have that adventure side. Humans you control gain indestructible until your next turn. So guess what's a human? Oh yeah, that's right, our commander, and also all the changelings that we're running in our deck, so they will all get indestructible. On top of that, it does have the stats of Vigilance, Haste, and Trample, being a 5/5 body. When it does attack, you put a 1/1 counter on each human you control. So again, kind of going back to our commander is a human, and all the changelings that we do have on the battlefield. Of course, if we do have Masquerade Nexus on the battlefield, all our dogs will put 1/1 counters on themselves too. So yeah, this is a really solid card in the deck as well. Next up, I did want to highlight a more sentimental card, and that's Selfless Savior. So the reason why this is sentimental to me is because I did have a dachshund growing up, and her name was Willow. Recently, she passed away about 2 years ago, and so this is more of me honoring her by putting a dachshund in the video. So aside from the sadness, this is actually a very good card in their deck because we could sacrifice it to give another creature you control indestructible until in a turn, whether we're giving Tiny indestructible or our commander. Another good doggo I did want to highlight is Mau, Loyal Companion, and this one is particularly very synergistic with our commander because it does have Vigilance and Trample, being a 3/3 body. If one or more 1/1 counters would be put on Mau, Loyal Companion, that many +1 1/1 counters are put on it instead. So this heavily synergizes with our commander because we'll put 1/1 counters on all our dogs when we do sacrifice an artifact token. So instead of putting a 1/1 counter on Mau, we'll also put 2 1/1 counters on it instead. So this can be very synergistic with our commander for sure. Another great card I did want to highlight is Yoshimaru, Ever Faithful. This does have some synergy with some legendaries. Of course, whenever another legendary permanent enters the battlefield under your control, you put a 1/1 counter on Yoshimaru, Ever Faithful. So this does have a little bit of synergy with our commander. We first cast this on the battlefield, and then when we do cast our commander, we'll enter the battlefield with 2 legendaries with Tiny and also the commander. So we'll put 2 1/1 counters on Yoshimaru just off of that interaction. So expect Yoshimaru to get extra thick with all the legendaries, and also when we're putting a lot of 1/1 counters on all our dogs with Sophia's ability. I did also want to highlight another good boy with Rex Cyberhound. I know technically it's not out yet. It comes out in the Fallout set. I think it's coming out in a month or so. But really the main reason why I do have this in the list is mainly because it's a dog, but not only that, it does also have a good array of abilities that make it separate from everything else. It does have the abilities when it deals combat damage to a player, they mill 2 cards and you get 2 energy counters. You could also pay 2 energy counters, choose target creature card in a graveyard, exile it with a brain counter on it, activate only as a sorcery. Rex has all activated abilities of all cards exiled with brain counters on them. Because we are in a combat focused deck, we can take advantage of this. This acts as graveyard hate and basically is an Agatha's Soul Cauldron on a body. Also, we do have the synergy with our commander by putting more 1/1 counters on it so that we can just increase the power and toughness of it so that people may not want to block into it. It will be a good threat on the battlefield. So I guess if you are making this deck, you will have to probably wait a little bit longer for this card when it releases in the Fallout set. However, that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and watching this video on Sophia, Dogged Detective. Really, what I should be saying is Shaggy and Scooby. I'm totally going to be making a proxy of this card. I'm absolutely enthralled with the idea of essentially sacrificing Scooby Snacks so that you can deal some combat damage, make some more Scooby Snacks, and also investigate what's going on. Of course, you kind of have to incentivize your dogs to swing in so that you have to buff them up a little bit more. And of course, with Tiny being Scooby-Doo, I mean, come on, the flavor is absolutely oozing here. But let me know down below in the comments, what do you think of this commander? Do you plan on building this commander? Again, let me know down below in the comments. Also, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And with that out of the way, thank you for stopping by.